Welcome to Life's Hidden Curriculum, a podcast designed for Philadelphia teens and young adults that helps connect them to resources and information needed for adulthood. My name is Quan King, and I'm your host and curator of this content intended to get you the info and understanding necessary to make informed and smart decisions. You can find even more information on the website, lifeshiddencurriculum.com. And now, today's episode. This is my amazing and incredible wife. Her name is Maggie King. She's also a doctor. She works with young people, particularly those in crisis. And due to the nature of her work, I'm not going to get into too much detail as to where and what exactly she does, but just know that she knows her shit and she can be considered to be a healthcare professional.
I'm okay to say what I do.
Okay, well, I'll let you introduce yourself then.
I'm a child psychiatrist. Which means I'm a physician. I went to medical school. After I graduated medical school, I went to general psychiatry residency training. And then I did a specialized training in child psychiatry here in Philadelphia. I graduated from that in 2018. And then I went into working for a hospital system at a crisis center. And now I do kind of a hybrid thing where I'm at the crisis center and I'm at another outpatient. I'm in an outpatient setting within the same hospital system. So I do both now.
Got you. So it's been interesting because we've known each other for a long time now. Obviously, we are also married to each other, madly in love, all that stuff. Beautiful, beautiful, good stuff. But we have also had the distinct privilege and opportunity to see different sides and different ends of young people when they're going through some of the things that they're going through. And unfortunately, she sees a lot of young people that are, in crisis and having some of the worst days of their lives. And I've been able to kind of see young people before they make some of those decisions. And, also some of the best days of their lives too. So it's been it's it's been very, very cool to have some of these conversations that, we're kind of having now by young people because we see it from a lot of different angles and the coverage that I think both of us get to have is unique. And so we kind of started off talking about this podcast in particular and how I struggle with trying not to just be another nameless opinion that's in a sea of a bunch of other opinions, really more like an ocean, and why people should listen to me and what it is that I have to say about particular topics and whatnot. And that kind of lend itself to some of the experience that I've had in working with different populations all throughout the city. For those that may or may not know, I've worked, at Temple University in the recreation department. I've also worked for the city of Philadelphia at rec centers. I've worked in some of the more difficult or problematic spaces in rec centers. And for all of my rec people, they know I was a fireman. And we'll just kind of leave it at that. But I've worked at
You might want to
gathers.
clarify what that means.
No. That's just for the people.
Putting out fires.
Well, yeah. I've been at Gathers, 25th and Diamond. That's in North Philly. I've been at Cobb's Creek, which the community used to call like Switzerland. But then I've also been at Christie, which is 57th and Christians. And I've also been, here at Finley. I've been in a lot of different locations. I've been places in between those as well, right? And I'm familiar with a lot of different rec centers throughout the city. But more importantly, I've been exposed to young people at that street level, on the community level. So when they come in or asking for basketballs, they're asking to use the bathroom, they're trying to finesse and trying to sneak girls in different places. They're trying to, steal food or steal equipment. They're trying to sneak into the gym, all those things. Like I've been around young people at some of their more kids being kids times. I've also been in environments and in communities where there have been drive-by shootings and we've had to, corral kids in. We've had to, shield kids from gunfire. We've had to de-escalate situations so it doesn't evolve into, firearms being used. And we've also, I've also been in communities that have experienced a lot of trauma and in reaction and response to gun violence and other forms of violence that are going on. So, I don't take any of those experiences very lightly. I've been privileged and blessed enough to be safe, to be able to experience those things. But also I've been able to lend my own personal experience and my own upbringing and growing up in Detroit, and also living in North Carolina to be able to give a different perspective for young people so that they know that some of the things that they see are not the universal outcomes that they're, predetermined to be. The world is a lot bigger than Philadelphia, and it's a hell of a lot bigger than your neighborhood or your street, or your house. It's really about, what it is that you wanna do and how you wanna figure out and how you live your life and how you make your next steps and how you leave a mark on this world. Um, so yeah, we were talking about a lot of different things. Um, and if you could, kind of recap some of the shit that we talked about, and then we can kind of pick the conversation up
I'll
from there.
try.
Yeah, sorry about
I'll
that.
try. Yeah, we this happens to us sometimes. Well, be having what seems like it's not gonna be that deep of a conversation, and it becomes a little deep, and I'm like, "Man, we should have recorded this." That's what happened here. So this was a conversation that evolved from Quan wondering what to do with the podcast,
Mhm.
and I had some ideas, and then we just kinda started talking about, I guess what you would say is like your target population or whatever,
Mhm.
which is where I have some experience from my profession. We were talking about, I guess really the thing that turned the conversation this way was when you said that you wanna get out and start asking kids what they wanna hear about.
Yeah.
And I remembered you've spoken about this a lot over the years. You've talked about having this idea of mentoring kids and young adults, and you see other groups trying to do it, and one of the things that seems really noticeable is they decide what the kids should hear.
Right.
And your idea had always been, why don't we ask the kids what they want to hear? We both had concluded a lot of times the issue is they don't know what they need to know.
Yeah.
But it's still worth it, I think, to ask them, what they think that they need to hear. I had mentioned some of the themes that I see in my work with kids and what they're struggling with. One of the biggest things that I see leading to the bigger issues is a lack of skills in conflict resolution. And I see that in social settings with peers. I see it in school settings with teachers and other school staff. I see it in the home with their parents or their siblings or their other, adults and caretakers. A lot of times it leads to really escalated situations that lead to police getting called or mobile crisis being called. They get sent to me at the crisis center or the other wonderful doctors that work at the crisis center, whoever's on shift at the time. Um, and sometimes they end up in the hospital, in the psychiatric hospital, as a result of, and this is really simplifying it, kind of reducing it down. But I think one of the major themes that we can pull from it is a lack of conflict resolution skills. I see it time and time again, and I talk to kids about it a lot. So there's that. There's also a lot of times a lack of an ability to emotionally regulate themselves. So they have these like really low frustration tolerances, kind of a hairpin trigger. They also have a really proud ego,
Yeah.
is probably a good way to put it. And the sense of like, I guess I can curse on this, right?
Absolutely.
That they're not gonna be a bitch.
Right.
That
Yeah.
they're not gonna be made to look like a bitch. They're not a bitch. Um, and so things that probably could have been ignored or talked out end up becoming really escalated situations that, at a worst case scenario leads to somebody dying.
Mhm.
Um, Other things like they get in some kind of legal trouble. They
Mhm.
end up at the juvenile justice center. They get kicked out of their house. They're in the streets doing all that stuff. They end up in the crisis center, they end up in the hospital or whatever the case may be. And it's just a theme I keep seeing over and over again that kids really lack these basic kind of skills in emotional regulation and conflict resolution. So I think that's where we were at. But we had also mentioned the pandemic probably worsened this issue for a
Yeah.
lot of kids, depending on what developmental stage they were at when the pandemic hit them, because a lot of teens right now would have been about 10-ish.
Roughly.
So, in that range when the pandemic happened and they had to stay home for school. And the teen developmental stage right now is where their self-worth is more predicated on peer acceptance than anything else.
Mm.
When they were younger, it was how well do they fit into their parents' expectations. They actually strive to meet parental expectations at a younger age. And then as they get older into adolescence, then it becomes more outward from going from in the family unit
Mhm.
in the home to out. And so They're literally out in the streets, out with their friends doing stuff, but figuratively also out of the parental structure, seeking acceptance from their friends. That's a normal developmental stage. A lot of basically every adolescent goes through this. As they get into more adulthood, then it becomes more about meeting different types of expectations, like in their career, in their own family, their romantic relationships, or
Mhm.
just meeting their own expectations. And you go through all these stages for the rest of your life. Teens have a really tough time anyway
Yep.
because of that.
Yeah.
And so the teens now that went through the pandemic, I think staying home and not having a lot of social interactions probably worsened some of this stuff.
And then you add on social media and the toxicity that you get there.
I don't, I don't want to throw any parents under the bus, but
We gotta hold everybody accountable.
kids are a product of all of the environments in which they are.
1,000%. Yeah.
And the biggest environment that they're in, the one that they spend most of their time in, is home. And so what they're seeing at home, what they're hearing and learning at home, what's being role modeled or taught to them is a big influence in how they see the world and make choices and move through the world. And I don't think it's any surprise that some parents do a great job and mess up sometimes. And other parents maybe didn't have that for themselves and they don't know.
Right.
They're flailing too. And they don't really know what's the best thing to teach their kids or show their kids or whatever, or they're having a tough time financially, or they're in a bad relationship, or they're trying to get out of a bad relationship, or whatever the case may be.
Use all sorts of shit. Yeah.
Mhm.
Violent. So I'm glad you brought some of that up and you kind of caught us up to speed because I remember when I was at one of the rec centers talking to a group of young men about um things that were going on. So I had like 4 or 5 guys from different parts of the city, and I was asking them about their perception and how they see themselves and how they think other people, society kind of sees them. And I posed the question. I said, the world seems to think that your whole generation, like you young boys, just on some fuck shit all the time. And the one guy was like, but we are. And not all of us, but like some of us definitely are. And as we got to talking more about it, he actually revealed to me, he was like, well, part of it is like, there is nothing out here for us to do. Like, we want to do other shit, but when you got that shit in your community, when it's like at your doorstep, like if there's nothing else that you can do to escape it, yeah, you're gonna fall into that. Like you're gonna fall into the fuck shit that's going on your block because it's your block, it's your community. And when people in your community are on fuck shit, well then it's kind of hard when that's your home base. Like you're trying to leave it and you're coming back to it. So if whether it's in your families, it's in your house, whether it's on your block, it's on your street, and he also said, like, he was very illuminating when he said this. He was like, some of it too is like, the family dynamics. If you don't have like a really good, strong family support system in the house, you're even more susceptible to being
Mhm.
on fuck shit. Because if you're coming home and nobody's home and you're just
Mhm.
on your own, then what are you gonna do? You gonna probably hang out with your homies.
Mhm.
And if your homies are on fuck shit, well then you end up being on fuck shit. Cause there's nothing else for you to do. You only sit in the house for so long. And there's two sides to that because I know from having worked at rec centers and having worked in like that public space, there are a lot of organizations that are trying to provide for young people. And kind of like we talked about before, one of my criticisms has always been, it's cool that you want to do things for young people and teens, but if you're not meeting them where they are, then you're doing a disservice. And I've always used that analogy of like if you're trying to give them coats but they're hungry, it's great
Mhm.
that they're warm now, but if they don't have any food in their belly, like you're missing the mark. And so, one of the things that this group also kind of illuminated, which is something that I'll grapple with honestly, but he was like, getting paid. The reason I grapple with it is because when you give young people money, you're not necessarily giving them opportunity to do something different. You may be fueling them to do more fuck shit. Just like the same way people don't want to give homeless people money because they think, oh, you're gonna go out and buy drugs, buy alcohol. But from what this young man was telling me, he took it as like, well, I have a job now. I can't be on fuck shit because I have a responsibility to go do something else. And so that put something in perspective a little differently for me, and so in terms of programming, I'm still not 100% sold on the idea of like, all right, if a kid comes to programming, I'm gonna give him money. But I do put a lot more stock and value into a young person having a job that discourages them from doing stupid shit that can interrupt that. Because you could do stupid shit and still be in a program and get paid.
Mhm.
There's a lot of kids that do shit like
Mhm.
that. I mean, you can talk to any of these number of organizations, whether it's NOMO, whether it's the one out in West Philly, like they have to deal with nonsense from young people all the time, and they end up kicking kids out, even at rec centers,
Mhm.
right? They're kicking kids out because they're on some fuck shit. But at the same time, they're still trying to provide high quality program for the young people that are showing up that are not on the fuck shit. So it's not just about giving kids money to be in a program. It's really about giving them a path and an opportunity to do something that is different. And I know that to the untrained ear, well, it sounds like, oh, you're saying the same thing, but I'm not. Because again, if I can be in a program, if I can just show up, sit down for an hour and a half, eat some food, and you mark my attendance and then I get paid, that's a lot different from going somewhere where I'm expected to be on time, maybe I have to wear a uniform or something like that, and then I'm actually doing work, and the
Mhm.
quality of that work is tied to me getting paid.
Mhm.
Right? There's an investment of my time and energy into this thing, and depending on how well I do determines how well I get paid versus me just going somewhere and knowing how to finesse a system and then getting money. Because
Mhm.
then there's no loyalty to that. There's a bunch of programs that are like that in the city, and they have varying levels of success. In addition, they have varying levels of attendance too.
Yeah.
I've been part of those programs, and it's frustrating from a practitioner standpoint because again, you may have a bunch of really great quality stuff that you want to do with young people, but if you can't get them to come through the front door, well, then it's all for naught. And it's
Mhm.
even more frustrating when you do have young people coming in, but then when you're hearing what they're talking about, you hearing how they behave, you're like, shit, like these are young people I want, but clearly what I'm giving them isn't making the difference that I need it to make. And so like now you feel like you're enabling the fuck shit that they're part of, which you don't
How?
want to do. Well, because again, if you are, let's say if you are, your program is based off of giving first aid, right? Come in, you learn about first aid, kids not really paying attention, whatever, whatever, but you're paying them to be part of this class. So now they come in, they flunked the test because they really weren't learning anything, but they did everything they needed to do to get paid. They never got the certification, they never passed the test, but then they got paid. In their mind, cool, I did what I was supposed to do. In
Mhm.
your mind, the whole point was supposed to get you the certification so that you now have this ability to potentially save somebody's life, and you just got paid.
Right.
Like, so
Mm.
that's one of the things where it's like you can really miss some of that stuff.
Can I have a thought?
Sure.
May I interject? I think a big part of this issue is what the kid's motivation is. Do they have the motivation to hear a different perspective or to learn something that might better themselves? Because a lot of these kids have the idea that they're perfectly fine.
Yeah.
That like the choices that they're making, the path that they're on, like there's no problem.
Right.
And I think consciously they believe that deep down, clearly there's an issue. For me, I think as I was going through my training and everything, in my child training, every step of the way, there was this theme of there's only so much we can do in these clinical settings
Mhm.
because we're sending the kids back to their environments. And this kept coming up for me that it starts with the family. It
Mhm.
starts at home. And if they don't have the guidance, the stability, the nurturing, the feeling of like being heard and safe at home, then it's hard to engage kids in something external to that.
Right.
Because like that's kind of the core of the issue. That's not what they realize, what they see, what they know is how they feel. They may feel unheard and discarded and not cared for and like, well, they don't give a fuck about me, so I'm out here now.
Right.
And once they're out there, and again, they're in this developmental stage where the biggest thing to their self-worth is peer acceptance. So if they find a group of kids that, they can roll with or whatever, and they're doing the, as you say, fuck shit, and that's their in, then that's what they're in. And they don't consciously understand or see an issue with that at all. They think they're fine. They don't think there's anything wrong with that. And there's almost a sense of entitlement of like, well, you know, they don't care about me at home,
Mm.
so this is where I am.
Now, see, I'm gonna push back a little bit because I think what's happening, maybe in addition to, is like because when they're part of their group, I think there's a lot of groupthink or mob mentality that happens, and so they find security in that, where it's like, well, I'm not. It's not just me that's doing this. Because when I've sat down with young people that are, doing stupid shit like one on one, they'll tell me like, no, like I was drawing, but and they'll come up with whatever rationale because
Mhm.
somebody else did something or something else. And I'm like, no, no, no. We're talking about you, decisions
Right.
that you're making.
A lot of times they can see that after the fact,
Right.
but when
Yep.
they're in it,
Oh, no, no, no. It's completely
it's
groupthink.
it's like they don't I'd say 99 out of 100 times, they don't have the thought that what they're thinking is, "I'm gonna fit in with these people. Like, I need to find my people,"
Like when
or
they're out
whatever.
there jumping on cars, like stupid shit. It's like no individual kid, if you sat them down, like, fuck is you doing? Like, no, that was the we was drawing. But in that moment, 20 kids are jumping on somebody's car.
Mhm. They wanna fit in.
And it's like, but you all know that this is stupid. And you all know it's just a matter of time before somebody pulls out a strap on y'all.
Mhm.
And then you ready to claim like, oh, we just you
Having
serious, like
fun.
what you doing? Like you tripping. But you jumping on my car. It's one of
Mhm.
them things where like it's gotta balance out at a certain point. So, but again, that kind of behavior and that lack of self-control is what leads to only three of y'all being able to go into corner stores at a time.
Yeah.
Or, you can't
Mhm.
wear the Pooh Shiesties on SEPTA, right? Because again, like you guys have all created this mythology about who you are as your identity. And so now when, at least locally, like when Philly sees you, this is what they see. They don't see like, oh, the young boy's trying to fit in. He trying to, no, they see like, oh, these YNs on some fuck shit. And we not about to do that.
Mhm.
Cause here I am trying to drive a bus, trying to get from A to B. I ain't trying to hear none of the shit you talking about, bro. Cause it's nonsense. Cause if you was really about that shit, you wouldn't be jumping on cars. You wouldn't be trying to, fuck with the bus driver. You wouldn't be trying to, steal shit from the corner store. And the funny thing is, so I've asked young people too about uh, two things, right? Like, why do you steal from the Wawas and the stores and all kind of shit? Like, well, other people doing it too. Again, why are you stealing? If you're telling me it's because you don't have, or it's because that you're poor, you haven't eaten, that's one thing. And with that, I would say, well, your school gives you food. So if you're going to school, like you have access to food, just depending on what time you get there. And if you were to tell somebody at your school, like, look, maybe I got school too late, whatever, like I don't, I didn't eat today, they would make a way because they legally are required to provide you with food. Like I know for a fact that schools get breakfast and lunch, all the schools. So it's like you can get food if that's the case.
Yeah, but
But the reality is like
only
you're
2 meals a day, Monday through Friday.
true, true. But I'm just saying, like, if you are at Wawa stealing food in the morning before your class starts,
Well,
that's a
yeah,
choice that
that's
you're
dumb.
making. Like you
You
could
don't
be
need
at
to.
school
Yeah.
eating food,
Yeah, you don't need
but you're
to.
at Wawa stealing food. And then again you wonder why there's a police presence in the Wawa. Yo, y'all in here tripping. Yo, like, what's all this for?
Mm.
You!
Mhm.
Cause y'all here stealing Gatorades, y'all stealing Pedialytes, y'all stealing honey buns. Like y'all doing stupid shit. And then here's the part that y'all don't realize either is that now that impacts what these grocery stores have on their shelves and where they put these things. So like then now the inventory has to change to reflect that, well, if we stop stocking certain things and putting things certain places, then that's just gonna make it harder for people to come in and just smash and grab and steal shit. So now that affects the entire ecosystem, the entire community now. So now somebody else comes in and is like, oh, how come you don't have this anymore? My
Mhm.
kid is sick. Why don't you have Pedialyte? Well, because all these kids come in and steal Pedialyte because they think it's
Why
the
are they
cool thing to
stealing
do.
Pedialyte? I haven't heard that.
But yeah, so I think part of it came from the sports culture because it has the electrolytes, and so I think there were some kids that were drinking that in lieu or in addition to Gatorade because it has like higher concentration, and then there was this belief that like well it's like water times 10, which is a fucking stupid marketing ploy, but whatever. And so kids were like drinking Pedialyte. Right.
No, I mean, it does provide more hydration per ounce of liquid than,
Sure,
like, plain water does,
but I don't think
but
any kids need to be that fucking hydrated.
that's what I'm saying. Like, they're not athletes necessarily, they're just
These kids aren't dehydrated.
well, I guess they're walking around all day.
Yeah. But so all that to say, like, young kids are coming in and doing this shit because and one kid told me, was like, they got the fucking money. And I'm like,
I've
yeah,
heard that too.
yeah, but no.
Like, they don't care so much, yeah.
Like, and it's funny because in a similar conversation, or in a similar type of conversation, I saw a young person just throwing trash like on the ground, a
Mhm.
foot away from a dumpster. Just threw it on the ground. I said, "Excuse me,
Mhm.
what are we doing? Why? Dumpster right here. Why does it matter?" The fuck you mean, why does it matter? So let me ask you this. I come to your house, I throw trash on your fucking lawn. You care? Well, no, I don't really care. It's already trash on the
Mm.
ground in front of my house anyway.
Yeah, that's like having no respect for your surroundings
Or yourself.
or
Like,
yourself because,
don't
like,
give a shit.
they think because an issue already exists that they can't contribute to it somehow.
But they also have just resigned the ability to fix the issue. Like, it's beyond them to say, like, oh, I can pick up the trash in front of my house and keep where I live clean. Like, I can have a standard.
It actually I feel like this comes from sort of a sad thing where they feel like their contribution would be so insignificant, which at a deeper level comes from a feeling of like inadequacy
Yep.
or smallness, which again comes from home. So they don't see how they could contribute in a good way, but also somehow they don't see that their actions are contributing in a bad way.
Right. It's like a downward spiral that they lock themselves into. And it's funny. So there's this expression. I forget who said it exactly. I know Pac had some sort of version on it, but essentially it's like your mom ain't shit, your daddy ain't shit, and you ain't gonna be shit. Right. That's
Mhm.
a very hurtful thing that you could say to a young person. But in some ways, like young people, not all, and I don't want to paint all young people with a broad brush, but
Right. We're strictly talking about the kids that we've had experience with,
yeah, like,
by the way.
and the one that y'all know that y'all be on your fuck shit. It's like you have taking that on and saying like, this is what it is. So like, there's no point for me to like have hope or for me to try to do anything more because it's pointless. I'm small. I'm nobody. I can't do I can't fight against the entire system that is in my way and all these barriers that I have.
Mm.
I look and I see what's going on with the government. I look and see what's going on with politics. I look and see what's going on in the world. I look and see what's going on with all these things. And like, what I can't do it. I'm helpless in this situation. And again, that's normal. And I think some of that too stems from the fact that there's not enough education that has been accepted, I guess, to be able to understand your role in all of this and how you can actually overcome it and find your path forward. But also there's not enough support anywhere else to be found to say like, yo, like, don't be so hopeless. Yes, times are hard right now, but like, you're gonna get through. And like, I've heard a lot of people say like, there's no more old heads on the block that used to like pull kids to the side and be like, yo, X, Y, and Z, I'm trying to put you on game. And I've seen this where I feel like you were talking about before, like the developmental stages. I feel like those have stretched a little bit. Where it's like what was normally supposed to be done within a certain age range now is getting stretched further and further. Even our generation, our millennial generation, if you will, we got people that still haven't figured out who they are into their 40s and sometimes 50s.
Mhm.
And they're having these real fucked up identity crises. And, they never stop to say, like, who am I?
Mm.
And they haven't developed their personal identity, but they've made all of these really grown up adult decisions, whether
Mhm.
it's getting married, moving, having kids, starting a career, whatever, right? But they've done these things, and so now there are real consequences that are locked in with these things that is challenging their identity and what they're really about in their
Mhm.
character. And that's a very tough thing to do, but I think it's happening to the younger generations too, where, as kids, hate calling your kids, but as young people are trying to figure out what it is that I want to do with my life, and they're looking at college and saying, "Hmm, that ain't it no more," and no one's presented an alternative, and so they're forced to kind of reckon with this idea of like, what the fuck am I supposed to do?
Mhm. And they're looking at adults that also haven't figured it out. Yeah, and I don't wanna imply that, you become an adult and it's all figured out.
No, that's a no.
We continue to figure things out until we die.
Right.
But I think adolescence is just such a vulnerable moment in life that, like, this is why it becomes the topic, but that doesn't mean that as you get older, it doesn't continue to be
Yeah.
to be things that you need to figure out. Yeah, I mean, adults don't have it all figured out for
Yeah,
sure.
and I think looking at and this is I know this is wide ranging, right? So y'all just gotta deal with it because you tuned in. Uh, but so we talk about this generation now that's coming out of college or that's thinking about going into college, and they're presented with this very, very stark reality of, okay, you told me to go to college to get a good job, but now I've gone to college and there are no jobs.
And I'm in debt.
And I'm in debt. And so now the next generation coming up is like, well, we're not gonna fucking do that shit. But the
Mm,
current generation is now a little bit resentful and annoyed and frustrated. And people want to say, well, you're being entitled. It's like, well, hold on now. You told me I was supposed to do these things
mm,
and there will be something there. Now I've done all these things. I've taken on all this debt. I've jumped over all these hurdles, gone through all these fucking barriers, and now there's nothing here.
mhm,
And on top of that, now you're telling me AI is taking my jobs. That's one of the craziest things about how quickly technology has advanced. Even if 4 years ago you told me go into computer science because AI is going to be the new big thing, what you didn't anticipate is that within fucking 2 years, all those jobs I was supposed to have upon
mhm,
graduation would be gone, would be then replaced by AI. And so now, I can't finish my degree any quicker than I fucking can because it's just set. So
mm,
I've spent 4 years now and I come out and I'm 2 years behind. Like make it make fucking sense. And so yeah, I'm pissed
yeah,
and I'm frustrated. And I'm also looking at corporations that are sending jobs overseas, jobs that I could be doing, but no, they're going somewhere cheaper overseas to get the work there. And then on top of that, they're also double backing the other end and saying, well, some of this shit we can just replace with AI. So instead of you calling in and talking to somebody on customer service, now you're just going to get an AI chatbot that can easily respond to some of the stuff
mm.
and then
No,
direct you to
they
the
don't do a
person.
great job.
Right. They can direct you to the
I
person that's
always
gonna
wanna
have
talk
the
to a
answer.
person.
Everybody does. So yeah, it's as a young person, it can be very frustrating. And then I look at the young people that are trying to figure out their life after high school, and I can understand their frustration because their parents
Mhm,
were the ones that lost their jobs after working there for 30, 40 years and didn't really get a pension anymore, which
mhm,
was like a locked in, like you're set for life.
mm,
They ended up getting like 401ks, which are like completely volatile and, susceptible to the stock market. So they don't have that, but their parents who worked all their life don't have this cushy nest egg to retire on. And then at best, they got like a fucking gift certificate or like a watch or a
mhm,
fucking plaque that says, hey, thanks for your 30, 40 years of service. Sorry for you.
mm,
Figure it out. And so now they're looking at their parents being like, well, working for these large businesses didn't really get them anywhere. They're miserable, they're pissed, they're annoyed, they're unhappy,
mm.
and they still have to work in their retirement years. I'm not signing up for that, but then what else is there?
Yeah, I could see how a lot of people, adults included, can become overwhelmed and suffer with, like, decision paralysis,
Yep.
and again, like I mentioned before, the difference between adults that don't have it all figured out and teens that don't have it all figured out is that the teens are in a way more vulnerable position.
And can
I
I add, the teens aren't supposed to have it figured out.
No, 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 no. They're not supposed to,
Right.
but, like, they are still making choices,
Yes.
and I could see how decision paralysis and this, like, overwhelm can hit them in a way different way,
Very different. Yeah.
and they don't know how to manage, and I could
Mhm.
see how they then just turn to the streets and the
Yeah.
fuck shit. It's like, well, what the hell else am I supposed to do?
What's the point?
Yeah, so I can definitely see that, like, things just seem so bad with the real world that they'd just rather not be in the real world.
And nobody has answers. And that's what's also frustrating too. And that's part of like the crux of what I've always said about mentoring is like it's not about as much as it's about holding the door open to help a young person get to where they're trying to go, is really about developing that young person and their passion and their identity about who they are and what is it they want to do with their life and who they want to be and how they want to get there. Because if you don't do that, you're you could be like leading a bomb into like an explosion somewhere. Because if they haven't figured it out, just because you get them from A to B doesn't mean when they get to B that they're not going to explode. Because
Mhm.
they're like, shit, I got into this thinking I was going to do this and now I really don't like this and now I'm about to explode. And also want to go back to a point you made earlier, because that's been one of my, and we've talked about this too. One of my beliefs in mentoring is that you can't just mentor, you can't take a young person out of a situation, do all this work to build them up just to put them back into that same situation. And so one of my beliefs in mentoring has always been you got to mentor the young person and you got to mentor their family. And that's why I've talked, I've
It's
talked to you
critical.
before about this crazy idea I've had of like creating this social services, network of support so that, as you sit down with the young person, you're also sitting down with their household and saying like, look, like if you want this young kid to be successful, and be able to get the most they can get out of this program, we got to fix the fuck is going on here too.
Yeah,
If if
it's
mom is
critical,
in
important.
3 or 4 jobs
Mhm,
and she's stressed out all the time and she's drinking too much or whatever, then we got to figure out how we can address some of that shit to get her down to at most 2 jobs, but at least get her more FaceTime with her young person, you know, when they are home. And, if dad got a trifling ass girlfriend that he talking to, like, we gotta do some counseling or something. We gotta figure out what it is that's creating the instability at home
mhm,
that's contributing to why the young person isn't able to get the shit that they need to get done.
mhm.
Like, and we gotta fix that. And it's not about giving handouts to people. There are resources available that a lot of people don't know. And I feel like a lot of times people are so bogged down with survival that
Mhm.
they don't have it in them to lift their heads up to be like, one, I need help, and two, where can I find help?
They don't have time to think.
Right. Because they're too busy
Mm,
trying to fucking survive.
yeah.
Um, and so that's something I've always said. That's where the mentoring programming always falls short. It's like, again, you want to help young people, but if you're not able to like mentor the household,
There's
then
only so far it'll go.
it's only going to be as
Mhm.
successful. It's only going to be successful when they're with you.
Right.
And then after that, like
Mhm,
say you're going to mentor them for like a year. They might do great every Saturday that they're with you. Oh my God, this was so great. But Sunday through Friday, fucking chaos. And then after that year, now they feel like you have abandoned them, because you were their lifeline out of the nonsense. Oh
mhm,
my God, I was hanging out with Mr. Jimmy. This shit was so great. He took me to colleges. We went to art museums. We did all these different things. Like it was just like a breath of fresh air. And then October 19th happened and that was it. I was
mm.
just reminded of the fact that like I ain't shit. I ain't never gonna be shit. And I only talk to Mr. Jimmy like every so often and that's it. That you do more harm than you do good at that point. Cause it's almost like you tease them to be like, oh, guess what? Life can be better. And then you remind them that like, but you're not worth it. Like that's the fucked up feeling that they're gonna take on. Because it's like, well, damn, like, can we do this again? Oh, well, I gotta mentor another kid, or I gotta, I don't have the time anymore because, well, you gotta understand this, that, and the third.
Yeah, I mean, there's gotta be a focus on giving them skills they can use at home, though. So, if they can build resilience and they can learn emotional regulation for themselves and they can learn
Hmm.
conflict resolution that they can use at home, and they can, like, kinda have their self-worth and self-esteem sort of pumped up so that they can
Hmm.
be more confident to do these things, I think they can take those skills home and use them in the environment that might be chaotic and sometimes neglectful and whatever the case may be, so that they can sort of extrapolate from the time they spent with the mentor to use the skills at home. But on the other end of that too is like, wouldn't it be great if they didn't need to do so much work to
Because
succeed at home?
remember, they're young people.
Right. They're young people, and you're almost by putting that expectation on them. I mean, it's a skill that they need for life
Sure.
anyway, so it's good to build the foundation early, but in a sense, I guess depending on how bad it is at home, you're parentifying them. So you're kind of asking them to parent their parents and parent themselves while trying to figure out their adolescence, and
Mhm.
that can be way too much and overwhelming. So, I mean, you and I agree on this idea of the family and the home. Like it'd be great if they didn't have to do the work, like so much work to be
Yeah.
successful at home. Wouldn't it be great if the adults did some self-reflection or learning how to, regulate themselves or not escalate conflicts?
And not only that, could you imagine the parent who's working 60 hours a week to be able to provide the basic necessities, barely been able to do so, and then they come home to their kid trying to tell them how to be a better parent? That don't go well
No,
either.
I know. I know that. No, I know that. I mean, the parent has to have a little bit of insight, I guess, and motivation to get themselves out of the rut.
Yeah,
Like the rut, not like I'm not talking about like resources and stuff like that. I'm talking about like in the family.
yeah.
like, have a better relationship with they have to want to have a better relationship with their kids and with their family members so that the household can regulate. I have this conversation a lot, mostly with moms, it seems, but this idea that when the adult is dysregulated,
Mm,
the entire household dysregulates.
1000%.
And usually in my experience, it's been with moms.
Mhm,
And not to blame moms for anything, it's just that moms are so important and integral that when they're I think it shows more when they're dysregulated, and it
mhm.
comes out in a lot of different ways in the
Yeah.
household. The whole household dysregulates. And whenever I brought this up, I think moms are pretty receptive. The moms that I've spoken with have been pretty receptive, luckily.
Well, nobody wants to be a
That
shit mother.
no, nobody wants to be.
Nobody wants to like to be like a shitty father is like, "Oh, well, it's you have shitty fathers and good fathers, but to be a shitty mom, like, that's when you talk about, like, pecking order or, like, totem pole, like, that's the worst. That's gotta be the worst.
Dads are important too.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt.
Dads are important too. I think dads being dysregulated, I don't know if it's more of a way that, and I don't want to stereotype or anything, but
Mhm,
I think men just emote in a different way. And I think they're more quietly dysregulated a lot of times
mhm,
than moms are. And so if they're dysregulated in a similar way that mom is going to be more emoting and it's going to be more obvious, and dad is going to kind of just quietly maybe be grumpy
mhm.
and isolate.
Like that passive aggression, not necessarily aggression, but like the shutdown stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that is kinda based on stereotypes.
Mhm.
I wanna acknowledge that, and it can be totally opposite too. Of
Yeah.
course, men externalize a lot too. They don't only internalize, and they, can be loud and aggressive and abusive in some situations, and yeah, and moms can be the ones that shut down too. I feel like there's something about the relationship with mom and child that relationship is more sensitive to
Mhm.
change, and it seems like mom's mental health can really be the foundation of the mental health of the household, and
I believe it.
it just seems really important. So I've had this idea, like I said, since back in my training days, that a strong family unit is really what's critical to the kids' success in mental health. Because there's only, like I said before, there's only so much you can do in these clinical settings. You're sending them back home.
Right.
And if the adults don't see their role in it, or they don't have the means or the motivation to change,
Mm.
there's only so much that the work you do with these kids in other settings, there's only so much it's going to do.
Yeah, and that reminds me of the conversation I was having with the young man, that I mentioned before is like he brought that up too of being like, I got a mom and dad, like, in the household, but I
Mm,
know some of my friends don't, and there's a difference.
yeah.
Like, there's a big difference when you have 2 people that you can rely on versus just the one person,
Hmm.
because when that one person has a shitty day, you're gonna have
Then
a
that's
shitty
it.
day, and there's no escaping it, and that's tough. I mean, we both come from, like, single parent households and
Mm,
different kind of evolutions of care when it comes to what that family dynamic looks like, but I think that has also influenced us in terms of how we parent to always be present for our young son, and so being able to kind of break that generational curse of parenting, I think is important, but not everybody gets that opportunity. And that's not the reality for everybody. And I can understand that there's a lot that goes into why that's the case. And that's always been part of the rationale behind why I did the podcast to begin with, was because, like, there's information out there that young people need to know so they can make better decisions as they get into those spaces and times in their life where they themselves are going to become either parents, but just the older generation. And so,
mhm.
man, wouldn't it be great if they were better equipped
Yeah.
to make these really big decisions instead of not being equipped?
Mhm.
And not to throw shots or like stereotype or anything, but like, man, wouldn't it be great if you were better equipped than your parents were? And I think that's the goal of every parent, is to make sure that your kids
Are better
are
off.
better off
Mhm.
than you were. But if, the old adage, if kids are having kids, then who's raising the babies?
Mhm.
Like, and so if we're living in perpetual generations of young people not being fully resourced, not making good decisions, and then in turn they're having kids before they're ready, they're just perpetuating the same cycle. And it's just, you're staying in these generational ruts of like not being able to like get out of it.
Yeah.
And you don't have anything to pass down because you yourself you haven't figured anything out yet.
Yeah.
And then you're forced to be in a situation where like, now I gotta take care of somebody else.
And
Like,
sometimes that's somebody else's they didn't wanna
right.
have.
And there's that too. But again,
And
like,
it may have been a circumstance that they regret or wasn't totally in their control.
right. And there's that too. For me, getting feedback from young people and hearing what is it they want to know,
Mhm.
and talk about, I think works. I think one of the things that's been beneficial to me, I was in middle school. I took advantage of this random ass program that was provided. Now, granted, I went to middle school in the South. So I say that to preface it with, in all likelihood, it was resourced probably differently than the Philadelphia school system is. But I was able to participate in this peer mediator program when I was in, I think, seventh grade. And the whole program was I worked with our counselor or whatever, and we were taught different ways to de-escalate, but also like arbitrate problems that young people were having.
Oh, yeah, I remember you telling me this before 'cause you're, like, exceptionally good at this.
Yeah, and it's crazy because like only like 4 or 5 kids like participate in this program. I think it was like a new thing that they were launching, but the goal, the motivation behind it was the the counselor wasn't able to address all the like little issues and flare-ups that were happening throughout the
Mhm.
school. So wouldn't it be great if we had like these little like young people with some of these skills to kind of help, mediate some of the smaller shit that's already going on and give them some tools, right? And I think from that perspective, I think that was a great idea. Um, and I can't say with certainty what all training that we got. I think I went to like maybe 1 or 2 days and I sat down and we talked over some stuff over lunch and blah, 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 blah. But we were put in positions to like help mediate drama basically that was going on in the middle school. And we also went out and talked to other class groups to try to recruit other kids to do it. But man, when I tell you some of the shit that I just learned, like from that,
Mhm.
I can't like put specifics to it, but just having the knowledge to say like, ooh, that I have agency in the choices that I make and how I respond to certain things. Man, that changed so much of my perspective on how I interact altogether. And so I advocate for more programming like that. I mean, that's something that can be done. I think when it's done at a young age, it has large ripple effects throughout the person's development. But also it kind of, there are moments where I got like pulled out of class because I was like a peer mediator, right? I had to go do this special thing. And so
Mhm.
like any young person wants to be able to have that sort of like exclusivity and like, oh, Kwan's getting pulled out. Just
Laquan's
wonder
gonna
what that
handle
is.
it.
Like, oh, this is it.
Laquan's gonna handle it.
Right. So like it was cool to like have that and have that responsibility. But at the same time, like these are your peers. Like you're having a conversation, be like, what's
Mm.
going on?
Mhm.
And then learning that like, okay, I need to hear your side of the story. Stop. I need to
Mhm.
hear your side of the story.
Yeah, and don't interrupt. Let each other speak.
Stop. Now I'm the objective person. I have no stake in this whatsoever.
Mm.
Here's what I'm hearing you say over here. Here's what I'm hearing you say over here. Did
Mhm.
I get these things right? Okay. Do either of you have a solution before I present a possible solution? Like
Mhm.
all these little things that I learned to kind of help manage or resolve a conflict are things I was able to kind of put in place later in life in a lot of different other ways. And one thing I frequently found out is that people just didn't talk to each other. They
Mhm.
talked at each other. They were hyped. They get upset, but they didn't like talk to each other. Oh, I didn't hear that this had happened. That's why you responded. I'm sorry to hear that. My bad. We good. And that's like 90% of the issues were resolved just based off of that.
Mhm.
And it's it's funny, like that's always the case when it comes to human interaction.
Mhm.
It's like, can you stop and listen to what the other person is saying?
I think people also want their feelings acknowledged.
Sure.
Like, I think a lot of these conflicts come about because one party feels some type of way that's not being validated or they're being like gaslit to think that they're not entitled to feel that way. So, with the hypothetical situation you were just describing with like let this side talk then that side talk,
Mhm,
there's like one extra layer, I guess from a mental health professional standpoint that I would add in
mhm.
is how did that make you feel?
Yeah, we didn't do that part.
Yeah, I teach kids this thing called I feel statements all the time in conflict resolution where you instead of saying, you stole my marker or whatever, right?
Mhm,
Just something really simple. You stole my marker. Instead of like approaching someone and saying that's the issue, you stole my marker, you start with I feel or I felt or whatever
mhm,
and name your feeling. So you say like I felt sad, like a little kid would say I felt sad. An older teen might say violated. You took my thing. And it is a way to open a conversation that's not confrontational and it doesn't blame the other person and you're forced to phrase it in a way where you are taking responsibility for your feeling. And the point of it is to communicate how you felt when somebody did something without blaming them for creating your feeling. So, like, of course, like people do things and it's going to create feelings in us, but we have to take responsibility for the feeling that we feel
mhm.
and then make a choice how we're going to respond to that feeling. And that's where a lot of kids fuck up. They think that anger equals acting out, anger equals beating somebody up or getting them back or whatever. But there's a step in between the feeling and the action where you can stop and say, I have my feeling. You're entitled to your feelings, by the way. Nobody's advocating that you don't feel anger or
Right.
whatever, but you feel your feeling. You use some kind of skill to emotionally regulate yourself
Mhm.
so that you have a calm state of mind to then decide what you're going to do with that feeling.
Yep.
And that step in the middle, no, almost nobody has it.
I tell people that all the time, like, yo, you have a choice how you want to respond to this.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with being upset. Be
Yeah.
upset,
You should be
but
upset.
but how are you going to respond is completely up to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, somebody called you out your name. Got it. You don't like that. But how are you going to respond?
You got to take it back even a step further
Mhm.
where you say, how do you feel about it? What is your feeling? They have to identify the internal first.
Right, right. I'm
What
not
do
a
you feel?
practitioner, so I'm
Yeah.
just assuming like I know that you won't be spoken to out your name or whatever. So I know you feel some type of way. That's how we say all the time.
Talk to me about the feeling though. That's what I would say. Talk to me
Yeah,
about the feeling. Like what is the get them to name the emotion and to talk about like what does this bring up for you? Because it's
yeah.
almost always related to something in their past.
Of course.
And when they can see that connection, then they start to grow. That's like growth comes from that. And they can learn how to predict when it's going to happen again. Like they learn what their triggers are. And then if they can stop for a second and say, okay, this is one of my triggers. Let me take a deep breath or let me walk away for a second, get my thoughts together or whatever to emotionally regulate. It can mean the world of difference in how they experience social interactions, romantic interactions,
And they might even fuck around and dare I say begin to like observe behaviors
and others.
and recognize, ooh, that's
Mhm.
gonna trigger me.
Mm. Mhm.
Let me not fuck with this person
Yeah.
because I'm seeing how they move and I don't like how they move.
Mhm.
Because typically people move like this, I start feeling the type of way
Mhm.
and I won't be spoken to out my name. And they're doing a lot of speaking out of names over there. Yeah, it's it's again, this is why I like having these conversations, and we have these conversations all the time, is because well, it's like we speak the same language, we just speak at it from different angles. But like, yeah, like I tell a lot of young people that like I'm all about building agency. Like you have so much more control over your life than you realize
Mhm.
and you recognize.
Mhm.
And you the fact that you already make certain decisions right now
Is evidence of that.
and you don't realize that like these are your choices.
Right.
Like that's the difference. If you can figure out how you can go to one event to get a book bag, go to another event to get some clothes, go to another event to get food and go somewhere else to get sneaks. Don't tell me you can't, go somewhere and get a physical. Don't tell me you can't go somewhere and get condoms so that you can practice, safe sex.
Mhm.
Don't tell me you can't go somewhere and get a job.
Tutor.
Like you can't tell me like I'm seeing you in action
Mhm.
being resourceful. I'm
Right.
seeing you in action like figuring out how do I get from this part of the city to this part of the city without my parents finding out and then getting back and then having an alibi that I was at the rec center the whole time. I'm seeing you figure out very complicated, convoluted things, but
That's
they
that's wonderful executive functioning and
right.
planning.
And you want to tell me you can't talk to your teacher because you got a D on your assignment. Fuck out my face. Go across the street, go to the fucking school, talk to your teacher. And when they don't want to talk to you, now, how did that make you feel? Right? Because now I'm gonna put on my teacher hat and tell you that the same thing, because when I'm in the class with you and I'm talking to you, you treat me like I ain't shit. I'm giving you homework, you're not doing it. I'm sitting in class trying to explain something to you, you talking to your friend. That gives me the impression you don't give two fucks about what I'm trying to tell you. So why should I now, when it's time for me to go to fuck home, spend extra time with you because you didn't do the shit that you were supposed to do this whole time? Because now you don't want to get your ass beat when you go home
Mm,
because you got bad grades. But if we at the end of the marking period,
yeah.
you've had all this time to do this shit. And if you just, and here's the crazy part, again, as a teacher, I'm coming in a Wawa in the morning, getting my fucking coffee, and I'm seeing you strolling in. You supposed to be in school. I know what time my period starts. I
Mhm.
know what breaks I get. I'm getting my coffee like I'm supposed to. And I'm gonna be in the classroom ready to go, teach my class. You in here stealing shit. When am I supposed to like give two fucks about what's going on with you when
I I
you're making these bad decisions?
I would hope that that's not the response a teacher would give a kid.
No, of course not.
I mean, that's probably their internal
Yeah.
monologue, but hopefully they're giving the kid a chance. Even, it's a little too late. Like, we don't want kids to get shut down
You
when they
know,
are finally making the approach. You don't wanna shut them down.
and so I'm always taking things to the extreme. And I do that because if we can find a solution in the extreme situation, then that means anything less than the extreme, there are clearly solutions too,
Mhm,
right? So like if we can figure it out here, anything between here, non-extreme shit to super extreme shit, we
mm,
can figure out,
mhm,
right? Like there's a solution there. Obviously teachers can't do that, but I get to be that, I get to kind of model that, not as the teacher, but as somebody that's telling you like, well, I kind of recognize some of that vibe because like when you come in here do fuck shit, like that's how I feel. But
mhm,
I'm gonna keep giving you a chance.
mm,
I'm gonna keep letting you fuck yourself over because then I just shut down the gym and I just, we done with it all together. We ain't gonna do none of that. But like that's what it is. As an adult, that's what it is. It's like
mm,
I only have so much time to dedicate to this thing. I'm investing everything that I have. I also have another life outside of this. I don't just live to teach you seventh grade math. In the allotted time that you get to learn seventh grade math, now it's your choice to learn seventh grade math.
mm,
If you're not gonna do it, bro, I got 30 other kids I gotta teach at that period. Like I don't have the resources. I don't
mhm.
get paid enough.
Well, that's not the kid's problem.
It's not, but I'm like, but again, like you list the entire scenario and say, this scenario isn't perfect and ideal as it is.
Right.
And everyone's doing everything that they can to still deliver for you. Little bit that you have to do to show up and do the work.
Mhm,
That's it. You show up and do the work, we'll figure out the rest. But if you can't do that part, and that's your agency, if you can't do that part, it's going to be very hard for anybody to have any other sympathy to go above and beyond if you're not even trying,
mhm.
right? Like people don't, no one wants to overextend themselves for people who aren't even willing to put forth any effort.
Yeah, but you gotta figure out why. Somebody
Yes.
somebody has to figure out why.
Yes.
Maybe not the teacher, but somebody's gotta figure out why
Yeah.
that's what the kid is doing.
Yeah. And I think a lot of the models of education are kind of changing to address some of that stuff. You see some of the community schools where they have resources in schools to help address some of those things is becoming more popular. But again, that's only available if there's money and funding available for those things because those things also cost money. You
Mhm.
just can't have doctors and clinicians and specialists in schools for free.
Yeah.
And you also can't have it in schools if you're going to charge the kids because then they're just not going to be there because the kids don't have any fucking money. That's why they're free school to begin with. So,
No, well, there's a school-based mental health model emerging that can bill insurance. So it's, like, similar to providing mental health services in the outpatient setting, except it's
mhm.
at the school in the school setting.
Hmm.
Yeah, and they can still bill insurance and get paid.
Is the insurance going to cover it? Because that's a whole different
I
question
mean, yeah,
too.
this is the whole thing. This is the whole thing.
Come back to a lesson in capitalism.
But,
Oh,
but yeah, I think the school-based model works because it's right there where a majority of the issues are.
yes.
And one of the downsides of the outpatient setup is you have to pull your kid out to go to the appointment,
Kids got to get there. Yeah.
and the parent has to take off work
Mhm.
and, all that. So I think the school-based model is really convenient. The parent can be involved by a quick phone call.
Mhm.
They can if they can step away for 10 or 20 minutes or whatever and take a phone call. It's so much easier than taking off a day of work or half a day of work and
Yeah.
commuting and all that stuff. Yeah, so the school-based model is really promising. I think the issue has been in what we call pay parity. Parity
Mhm.
meaning, is it going to be paid at the same rate as the traditional outpatient model? Because insurance went a nickel and dime everybody. But that's
Everybody.
another hour.
finessing. It's capitalism though. But it's funny you mention that because that's one of the issues that I've also had with trying to program for organizations too, is like the best way to reach young people is to get them where they are.
Yeah,
Don't ask young people to come to some place, to come to some brick and mortar space. I mean,
yeah,
again, they learned during the pandemic. I don't even have to go to school to get school. So tell me why I need to come to sit in this space for an hour and a half or 2 hours to learn something that you think I should learn. Because then you haven't asked me, what is it you want to learn? You've made the assumption I need to learn this. So now you want me to come to this space at this place at this time to learn something that I don't give two fucks about, and you may or may not feed me. You're not gonna pay me, or you may or may not pay me, right?
mhm,
And let's add to this because again, I'm a young person, so I don't have a car. Maybe I can walk there, maybe not. But again, like I just been sitting for like the last 7 hours in school.
yeah.
And now you want me to come somewhere else and sit? So all these things that go against why this program would be successful.
That's why I think your basketball model was so good.
Which one?
Like, the teen and young adult leagues
Oh yeah,
that
yeah,
you
yeah.
were.
No, because so, and I've said this too. Like the best application of certain programs are to just be in schools. Like again, meet the kids where they are, and it's so tragic because we're living in a time now, even our generation, where we grew up, there were an abundance of after school programs in our schools. I don't know about your school, but like when I was younger in Detroit, our program was called Latchkey. And I was a latchkey kid. It was after school
Mhm,
program. So it was like that programming from like 3 to 5 or 3 to 6 or whatever. I learned golf. I learned karate. I was in like Boy Scouts, all sorts of shit that would just take place after school. Bell would ring or whatever. I'd go change or I'd go meet up somewhere and
mm,
I learned something for like X amount of time.
mm,
And then, that's when I was younger. When I got older, then, there were sports and all that kind of other shit that you could do. But it was like quality stuff that you got to do after school. And as I've gotten older, I've seen how those opportunities have been like cut back and cut back and cut back and cut back.
mhm,
Even like quality programming during the school period has gotten cut back and cut back and cut back.
mm.
And so it's always been like, that's the place to have these things. And even if you bring in like outside organizations to facilitate the programming, the school is the place to have it. And so part of me also feels like how we approach school has to also change. I see what the mayor is doing and trying to have kids in school more often, but also like integrating more workforce development training in schools. I think there's some pros to that and there's some cons to that. But what I can say is that like I think that giving young people opportunities to do things in school helps a lot of the community across the board. Because yes, it may extend the day, but man, could you imagine how successful a real, like really good cooking program could be at a school, provided the school has those faculty and facilities, right?
Mhm.
You have a little culinary program where young people are helping to prepare and make the food that you're going to serve for lunch the next day. Man, how good would
Well,
that be?
yeah, there's all kinds of Department of Health regulations, so.
Sure, but those are minor in
Mhm.
terms of like addressing instead of like, you know, not having anything and then stressing out about like, well, we don't have enough people to come and work and do these things. We don't have enough like cooks or chefs or like line crew. Like we don't have enough staff. That could be an easy fix. And I know no one likes cleaning toilets, all that kind of other shit, but there's a lot of facility management operation shit that could be done too, where young people are getting that training and that development. And I'm not saying having kids clean toilets, but what I am saying is like from an operational standpoint, there's a lot of shit that like could be really dope for a young person to learn while they're, especially in high school, like getting that kind of stuff.
I don't think there's anything wrong with having kids take turns cleaning the bathrooms one time
No, no,
to le
without a doubt.
to learn what it's like to have to be the person that does it, and then to extrapolate to your daily life, like, "Let me not mess up this bathroom
Mm.
because I know what it's like on the other end."
Let me share this one. I think I've shared this story with you before, but maybe not the listeners. So in high school, I worked with a family friend of mine. He had like a small little contracted job, like janitorial job. So I worked with this guy for like 2 years, maybe, or maybe just like 1 full year. My senior year in high school, my shift started at about 10 o'clock at night. I would take my mom's car, drive across town to our friend's house. And at first I was going with him in his truck, and we would drive. We load up his truck with like cleaning supplies, and we hit 3 different spots. We'd be done by like 3 o'clock in the morning. It evolved to me going to his house, picking up cleaning supplies and doing the shit on my own.
Mm.
And so I was going into 3 different spaces. One was like a computer ish something. I can't remember exactly, but I know there was like very special equipment and machines. They didn't want us doing any cleaning in there, but it was basic like office cleaning, like dumping trash cans, dusting off
Mhm.
desks, and cleaning bathrooms. So I had that. There was another place that was like a newspaper spot, and there was another place that was maybe like a law firm or an accounting place. Where again, basically pulling trash, dusting like the main area entry area space, vacuuming, and then cleaning the bathrooms. And this is a point of contention I always bring up.
Be careful what you're saying.
Nope, fuck that. I'm going for it. So as much as people like to say that a men's bathroom is dirty and nasty, all that kind of shit, I'm not gonna refute that. But what I will push back and say is that a dirty woman's bathroom is just as bad, if not worse, because from what I experienced, right, and this is my own personal experience, the one thing a men's bathroom doesn't have is that little box, usually with a little door,
Yeah.
right? A little latch, a little hood, where you put used women's feminine products, right?
Mm.
Men's bathrooms don't have those. You got urinals, you got toilets, you got sink, right? Yes, piss on the floors is common, normal. Piss all over urinals, shit on toilet seats, shit on the back of toilet seats, shit on the floor. Cool. You get all of that in a women's bathroom, plus use tampons, use pads,
Now tell me something.
not in the receptacle,
I know.
on the toilet, on the
I
floor.
I read somewhere on the internet that
Nasty.
the point of that little box is
Mhm.
actually just to hold the little paper bags
Okay.
so that
Yeah, that's whole paper bags, yeah.
yeah, so you take the little paper bag out,
Yeah.
you put your stuff in it, and then you're supposed to take it out to the trash can.
No. So here's the issue with that, right?
But I think people are misusing these little boxes, and that's why they're such a mess because those boxes are way too small. There's no way that they're going to hold like a day's worth of people's products because the
obviously.
pads, I could see like 3 pads going in there and it's full.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I
again,
don't think that's how they're supposed to be used. And when you clean them, is there like does it like open up bigger? Like does the front panel come out or something?
no, it's
Yeah,
the
I don't think it's supposed to be used.
same latch.
I don't think it's used the way people are
Well,
supposed to use it.
well, I would imagine it's supposed to be the whole day because it's not like it's not like when you get like toilet paper, there's
Mhm.
like more rolls. It's like
Mhm.
one bag is in there. So you take that bag out, there's no bag in there anymore.
That's because I think people are using it wrong. I think it's supposed to be stuffed with bags. I think it's just a bag holder. And people are supposed to take the bag out,
And then
put their
open up a new bag?
put their no. So those bags are flat when they're folded up. Right?
Yeah, or it's
they're
like a roll. Yeah.
they're well, I've always seen like a waxy brown paper
Yep.
bag.
Yep.
And they're always flat.
Mhm.
And there's almost always one in there. But I think the idea is that like it's like a little mailbox where it's supposed to be for like multiple of these little brown bags.
Or you're supposed to like take a
Take a bag
put
out.
stuff in it, you just take the bags out.
It's just a bag holder. So you take the bag
Okay.
out, put your
Okay.
product in the bag, roll it
Yeah.
up or whatever, and then like you've concealed your garbage. And I think that's the point of it. And then you take it out of the stall to the main trash
Maybe.
because they're way too small to put products
Maybe.
into. And if they don't open up wider, how are you supposed to clean them?
I've never cleaned the inside of one.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So
I think people are using them wrong, and that's why it's always a
Hmm.
disaster.
Interesting. So 2 things I'll say to that. 1, very insightful. I like where your head's at.
Thank you.
2, you can blame men for this because again, men don't let women be architects. They don't let them be interior designers, and men design all these things. And so,
A sign is all it takes.
sure.
A sign with instructions is
Well-
all it takes.
well-
I've never seen one.
But what I also say is that people don't resign. That's just an operations facility thing. You can put it at eye level. You can put it on the back of the door of the stall. You can put it right above the thing.
Mhm.
Hey, this just holds bags.
Yeah, it should be
Put your
like
stuff in there and throw it away.
it should be designed similar to how you pull the, paper for the toilet seat out. Like, it should be designed like that where, like, you just pull the bag out, and
Or
that's all you can do. You can't open it up and put stuff in it.
or like the produce bags at the grocery store.
Yeah, if it's a plastic bag.
It wouldn't
Yeah,
be flat. That'd be
no.
terrible. But so what I also say to that is that there's a disconnect, right? So the person that is doing the work typically doesn't have any communication with the people that are running the space. And they have
Mhm.
no communication with the people who've actually designed it and put the things into place. People cleaning companies just coming in being like, "What do you got?" Okay, clean. So they don't, they and again, if they don't have certain supplies, they don't have certain things, they're just gonna go off what they can do in that time. Because again, like you're coming in well past office hours.
Yeah.
There's nobody there to do that. But no, that's actually it's actually a great idea. And I wonder if see this would be predicated off of the people that manufacture the bags, how they actually ship them.
Mhm.
Because if they ship them in like bundles of like 30 or so, then that will make sense. Like if you buy like a box, right, and that box has like 100 bundles of 30, then it would make sense that you would take that bundle, put it in there because it would, in all likelihood, it would probably fit right in that perfectly so that you
Mhm.
can take one out. And then when you're empty, you would put the next bundle in. But if they're shipping them in just the bundles of 30, people probably are in their minds like, oh, this is one bag per day. That makes
Mm.
sense?
I don't know if I would think that
Well, that,
necessarily, but
yeah, that's my fantastical brain. My design brain is working right now. But no, that is fascinating. But yeah, to get back to it, like you were saying, what I learned through that experience, not just about the men women thing, but what I learned in that experience is like, man, I just got one toilet at my house. I'm sitting here cleaning 3 urinals, 4 stalls in one bathroom, cleaning like 4 of the mirrors, 4 sinks, doing all this cleaning to make this place look nice and this big ass floor that I gotta, sweep up all the kind of other shit and then I gotta mop it. My bathroom at home ain't that big.
Mhm.
And if I just do the little things every day when I'm using it, then I don't have to do a whole great big deep clean every week. I just got to do like small spot cleaning here and there. And then maybe, ever so often, I'm going to do like a deep clean or whatever. Yeah, like so the mentality and mindset changes and how you approach these spaces.
Mhm.
And also your value assignment changes. Being somebody who's had to clean up after other people, now when I go into those spaces, there's a little bit more respect.
Yeah.
I'm not going to piss all over the floor because I don't give a fuck.
Right.
I'm going to make sure if I got to, you know, take a shit, like it's in the toilet and I'm flushing it. Cause again, I've been in situations too where it's like I come in, it's like, y'all clogged the toilet up. Fantastic.
Hmm.
And what's even worse? Hey, there's no plunger here. Fuck am I supposed to do with this? But I gotta figure it out because there's nobody else here. So like if we have a plunger, or if there's like a plunger in like a custodial closet or something like that, then maybe. But if not, I mean, the whoever's paying us isn't gonna appreciate the note that like, hey, your toilet was clogged and we didn't have a plunger, so we left it. You gotta call a plumber. They not gonna the
Mm.
contract done. Oh, rest in peace, my homie Buck. He used to cut my hair. So I got free haircuts because I would do
Mm.
that. But then also the money I made, I put towards all my senior stuff. So my senior dues, my yearbook, everything for prom, I made money from that. So it was great in terms of that. I nearly almost died one night. So that's a different story. But it was my own doing. It wasn't like violence or anything. Just
Oh,
almost
fuck.
almost fell asleep while
Driving.
driving.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I don't think another program that they've taken out of a lot of schools is driver's ed. I was fortunate enough to have that be part of my school
Me too.
programming, but I know here in Philly, a lot of that stuff is separate from school now.
Yeah, like third parties.
Yeah, like you got to
Mhm.
go out and do it on your own, and as a result, a lot of young people don't know how to drive.
Yeah.
So when I see people just blowing through stop signs out here, I have to give like a little bit of grace because they probably didn't learn, but they should have.
They have to learn enough to pass the test.
Well, here's the thing: like you can take a class, which costs money, and then take the test, and then get your license, or you just take the book, study the book enough, do the test, and then do the driving part, and just be really good in the driving part. Hopefully, you get somebody who's like, whatever, bro, just hurry the fuck up, and then you get your license.
In Pennsylvania, you also have to have hours supervised driving on your
Man,
permit.
let me tell you, we used to have community service. People didn't fucking take that shit seriously. You find somebody that you know that can fill it out. All right. What'd you do? Just yo, when somebody call you, just say I did community service. Just say I like rate leaves or some shit like that. Like, I mean, again, we're dealing with young people that know how to finesse, right? So yeah, it was always it's good to talk to you. Talk to me if she knows so many good things.
We gotta do it again sometime.
Well, maybe we'll just make this a regular thing. Not that regular, but we'll make it
Why
an
not?
ongoing thing. I mean, just get on here and like be like two grumpy old people. Sure.
I don't think I'm grumpy.
I mean, I don't like to think that I'm grumpy, but I'm sure I can sound a little grumpy. Like, damn, he don't say nothing positive, optimistic. He's always like, fuck.
Well, that's why you need me here
Right.
to
Is that so?
balance it out.
Right. All right. All right. All right. Well, I appreciate you.
I had a good time.
Yeah.
Good convo.
Always. Thanks for listening to another episode on Life's Hidden Curriculum podcast. Please don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube as we're on the road to 10,000 subscribers. If you like this content and want to support, head over to the website, lifeshiddencurriculum.com, and click donate. Also, I'm always looking for guests to share their stories, especially if it can help the next generation. Hit me up using the contact link. Thanks again, and stay tuned for more.